Right, so let's get the pulse going a little bit with that beautiful video. So that's me, Chris Welch, Managing Director of Welch Transport. Like I say, we've been operating electric HGVs now for a couple of years, and it's feasible. It works in our part of the industry. So I'm actually going to discuss what else we should be looking at, and this can go beyond electric vehicles, or it can be run alongside. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket and buy a very, very expensive bit of kit. You could actually do the things that I'm going to be discussing as a parallel to get yourself started on your decarbonisation journey. So a little bit about us. As we alluded to by Kate's lovely introduction, that will be my LinkedIn profile bio by the end of the day. We've been going, I'm fourth generation, we've been going since the 1930s. We're still family owned and operated. One of the main reasons I do it is for that gentleman on the right who's cut in half, who's my great-grandfather. It's been a whirlwind number of decades, and as we just discussed about if we were sitting in this hall 120 years ago, we wouldn't even understand what a motorway was, and now we're talking about electric lorries and workshops that change batteries and all the lovely stuff that goes with it. So that's who we are, that's where our journey's been so far. We are part of ZHID, so that lovely vehicle that's sitting just outside the hall is one of the demonstrators from the E-Freight Consortium, provided by our lovely friends at Renault. Again, we understand the restrictions of these vehicles. There's payload penalties, there's distance penalties, but every operator should have the opportunity to deploy at least one or two of these in thetheir fleet. Again, because of the mileages, we haven't done a million miles. We've done about 50,000 e-HGV miles, should we call them, and it's probably what my rest of my fleet does in a week. But it's all about learning and sharing our experiences, and I think, again, that's why I'm up here talking about it, because it's just understanding that roadmap and that journey. We've been doing it for 3 years now, and again, I'll talk a little bit about it. But if I can part a tiny bit of wisdom of those 3 years on some people in this room, then hopefully it'll get you kick-started a lot quicker. So what are we going to be chatting about very quickly? I'm going to try and whiz through this because the people that know me know I like to waffle, and I can see Andrew Scott smirking in the front there. But I want to get to the questions at the end so you guys can put me on the spot. So changing the model, what else could you be doing as an operator? Control your energy. I'm used to buying bulk diesel or buying bulk HVO, as we did this morning. But controlling your energy is the first time an operator has been able to drive the running cost of their vehicles down. So it's a really interesting one to get involved in. Intangible improvements, AI. I mean, for anyone who's at the Microlize masterclass this morning, talk about Microlize 1, that is in essence what it is. It's what we can do behind the scenes to make efficiencies, and efficiencies result in decarbonisation. Then innovation and collaboration. It was on my first slide. We're part of a transport association, a group of hauliers that cover the UK that we've been around before the tier ones were here. Most of you guys are the tier ones. And we've been working together, collaborating, sharing fuel, sharing charging. So collaboration and innovation cannot be overlooked as part of this journey. Changing the model. No, we haven't invented a portaloo on casters. This is something we've been working on with a company called Hubble Cool Run about trying to find new innovative ways to change the way that we move frozen and chilled goods. Nothing groundbreaking in there, but it's just a different way of looking at things. I'm not going to dwell on what it is. It's a glorified icebox. But again, it's the idea of changing the way that you move freight around. This goes hand in hand with urban consolidation. And again, a great way of decarbonising the supply chain without actually having to put electric vehicles on the road. Control your energy. Right, that's the first data table of the morning. This might be enjoyed by some people. We did a big piece of work with the Energy Saving Trust 3 years ago. So that's when we started our electrification journey 3 years ago. And I've only got 3 electric lorries on the road after 3 years. They analysed our main depot in Cambridge. looked at our input, took our telematics for a number of years, looked at our duty cycles, looked at the vehicle dynamics, the variables, what we were delivering, and it kind of gave us some ballpark figures of what we would be using if we converted the whole fleet to electric. And they're big numbers. Interestingly, on the days when we weren't so busy, we actually had enough overhead in the depot to nearly charge the whole fleet of about 40 HGVs. When it was our busy days, we didn't. So know where you are. Again, not any operators in the room who are going on this journey, it's going to be energy. Whether hydrogen comes to be part of the equation in a number of years, who knows? But I think from what we've seen in the car world, the van world, lower weight class vehicles will be electric. So you are going to have to tackle that question, and the deadlines are looming. What does that bring with it? So again, nice bit of microgrid, V2X, all these little things you can look at. It's probably a standard size, reasonable size fleet, 30, 40 vehicles at our Cambridge depot. We don't run 7 days a week. We park up Saturday lunchtime and don't start again until Sunday night. So that means if all my vehicles are connected to the grid at Saturday night, and the whole idea of V2X come to fruition, beyond a Nissan Leaf at the moment, I will have 15 megawatts of storage sitting in my depot, which is on an average home usage is about 2,000 homes. So again, the opportunity for operators to become energy providers is actually on the table. There's a whole piece of work that needs to be done around it, and you might very well lose the integrity of your batteries on your fleet. But then if I can make a lot of money on static charging, I won't be running lorries anymore, much to my great-granddad's disgust. Intangible improvements. So again, like I say, Microlise have the great product, Microlise, one that was talked about this morning. We're doing something similar within our business. Everyone now probably has cloud-based systems for your telematics, for your TMSs, for your WMSs, for your customer integrations, all the bits and pieces up there. So it's actually about trying to connect them, whether it be through a data lake, however you want to do it. But again, any small efficiency that can be brought by combining the systems and not having administrative tasks in the middle, again, is kind of a little step towards net zero. So we've named it Orbit. I think my man Jamie's in the audience here somewhere. I haven't seen him this morning. But again, there's opportunities to work with other partners to try and tackle the problems that we have. Again, anyone that's worked in the traffic office knows how administrative heavy it can be to operate just a handful of vehicles and drivers and debrief and pre-brief and customer queries and compliance. So anything you can do to connect the dots is a saving. Collaboration. So this little bit of kit was actually one of my initial claim to fame. This was the first publicly accessible HGV charger in the country back in January 22. Being a little SME, we didn't get to shout about it too much, but we've been charging other people's vehicles for, like say, 2 to 3 years now. And this is how this journey is going to continue. Obviously, at the ZHID Summit last week, the government, DFT, Innovate UK, announced the 52, 53 sites that are going to be operational by the end of next year to help accelerate the charging journey. And again, we relate it back to our own journey, the journey that we've had inside the Transport Association. We've been running vehicles for 90 years, like I've said, and we have probably used a fuel card for 10 vehicles over the space of a year in all that time. But yeah, I have 30 to 40 Arctics tramping the country all week. And we do that by shared charging, shared fueling infrastructure. I will go into a Transport Association member anywhere around the country, and we all collaborate and sell bunkered fuel to each other. So we have our own little network of fueling stations. A number of us have already got charging infrastructure in place and in trialling electric vehicles. So in parts of the industry, it is not weird. It is not frowned upon sharing charging infrastructure. And again, that's how we're going to drive down the price Operating costs, anyone that does operate electric vehicles, we do need to be pushing the price down to high teens at the end of the day. If you can get your price per kilowatt down to high teens, then you will be getting to the realms of seeing a 20% saving in the running cost of that electric HGV, or what we've found in our experience. So again, collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. As you can see now, I've got my hand in my pocket, and this is just a picture of me with my hand in my pocket. These are the few people that we're working with. Again, Ian touched on the work that Innovate UK, DFT, the government do behind the scenes. I do implore people, operators, to look into that environment. We're new to it. We're 2 years in, and we have a number of innovation projects going on around forklifts, around ZHID, around data sharing, charge point operator software. There's all sorts of interesting things out there for those who want to get involved. So that was a very whirlwind stop about what we're doing as a group, because I actually just want to answer lots of your questions.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much. Brilliant. Everybody, Chris Welch. Quick round of applause. We really appreciate you being here, actually, because it's obviously something that is on our conference delegates' minds. Most of the questions that come through are all about the stresses and strains of rolling out, particularly to meet the net zero, which has made headlines again this morning with the opposition party saying unrealistic deadlines. How accepting of change have your customers been in paying for and accepting the operational changes and limitations of zero emissions transport?
Not very. I'm a practical operator at the end of the day, not very. I can count on probably two hands now, it's getting better, of reoccurring work that we've got with different customers that will pay the premium required. But that premium that's required is based upon the commercials now, but also the running costs now, like I alluded to, of the price of electric. I pay in the day high 20s for my electric, and I have just about price parity with diesel, so I have to charge that premium to get that capital cost back on the vehicle. We own our vehicles, so I actually do anticipate running these vehicles for 10 years with battery warranties that last 6-8 years. We can see what happening in the coach world, how long these batteries can last. And I would just extend the life of that asset. So we are taking a jump, a plunge, to actually give it to our customers to demonstrate what can be done at cost. And again, it's the swings and roundabouts. We've run a couple of tenders in the past 6 months, based upon me standing on stages. But our new customers knowing that tomorrow they could come to me and switch this service on a drop of a hat, and I know how to do it, so we know how to do it in principle, and we are doing it, whereas the people we're up against would have to go through a bureaucratic cycle, or buy some electric vehicles, or put some charging infrastructure in. So I'm very much a big picture person. Whether that's right or wrong, and whether my great-grandfather's telling his grave right now, we'll find out in a number of years. But
I think it does reflect the family values of the Welch Group there, this idea of sharing that information. How will the infrastructure support EV vehicles be rolled out to be affordable, to support the transport sector, and in time to meet the net zero targets?
There's two pieces to that, I suppose. Obviously, again, last week, Milence opened their first charging hub, and that was obviously quite an interesting one for the industry, because the price point where they put it at, the best part of 40p per kilowatt, is half of what any of us EV car drivers experience when we go to a public charging point. So already, Milence alone demonstrated what the price points could be for charging electric. Again, I think charging infrastructure is going to have to be tackled publicly and privately. The other half of that, like I said, is you need to collaborate and talk to people that have charging infrastructure on site that are allowing you to come on site and operate. And again, we're Cambridge, Bedford, Hertfordshire. We'll have any operator in our site and charge you. We have 2 of the ZHID 1 megawatt hubs going into our depots, so we will quite happily charge anyone's vehicles. And there's other operators out there, obviously First Bus, who again spoke at the ZHID Summit last week. They've been operating electric buses for a decade. Their Leicester depot, which is really cool to go and see, has a charging gantry system. They have about 6,500 kilowatt chargers on site that are HGV accessible because it's a coach depot, and it's empty during the day.
Yeah.
And they want people to come and invite them to charge with them. And they're getting to the point now where the uptake is such that last week again, Andrew from First Bus offered up a a subscription kind of a membership model that was even better than the one that Milan's put on the table.
Okay, one last question for you. Apart from the mileage on your electric HEVs, what are the other logistical challenges with owning a part electric fleet?
Driver engagement, to begin with, you need to get your drivers on side. We've been doing it for a number of years now, so I actually have a queue of drivers that want to drive the next ones as they're being ordered. But there is a bit of learning to do it. Obviously, we all know driver aids. We've all been dealing with telematics, again, for probably about 8, 9, 10 years. So drivers understand economic driving, should we call it. There's a big piece there, and there's a big difference between kilowatt miles per hour, how I'd want to term it. Planners, if you're running a shared user operation like I am, where your customers just dump work on you and you've got to do whatever you can do with it, your planners have got to try and figure out which best fits those assets. But again, we're used to dealing with different weight variant vehicles. We're used to dealing with ones with tail lifts, not tail lifts, time surcharges. The fact that you've got a couple of vehicles in there that can only do X amount, most operators should have a piece in their fleet to apply electric to. And I suppose the last one is your OEM and your service dealer. Again, I can sit up here quite pretty because I run my local service dealer, but all the operators in this room know that your fleet is hinged on how good your service dealer is and how well they maintain your vehicles and whether they can handle that next generation electric lorry. So yeah, there's a look, but lean on them. All the OEMs, most of them outside are great. They need it to happen, otherwise they're going to get fined into oblivion. So they have no other choice but to hold your hand through this process.
Absolutely. And your insight, honestly, I'm sure our delegates really appreciate it because it is a journey they will have to embark on themselves at some point. So Chris, thank you so much,
Lovely.
everybody.